Item number, open for public comments. I do not believe we have anyone that has sent in anything or written down a request to speak in public comments, so we'll move on to item number 1. Oh, and sorry, we do have a quorum. We're missing Mr. Lundeen, who had an unavoidable work conflict. Item number 1, approval of minutes of regular MEDC meeting at June 20th, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to read them? Any comments, questions, adjustments?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of the regular MEDC meeting, June 20th, 22.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded by Jeff Angelo that we approve the meeting minutes from the MEDC meeting from June 20th, 2022. The motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of regular MEDC meeting June 20th, 2022 say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will approve the minutes of the regular MEDC meeting June 20th, 2022. Item number 2, approval of the financial reports. Carol?
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 this time because we did not have the meeting in June. So June's sales tax was $84,813.38, and our interest rate was 1.37%. Then in July, our sales tax was $126,665.96, and our interest rate on the tax pool accounts was 2.12%. I did not see anything that we paid out that was unusual or needed to be brought to anybody's attention, but if you have any questions, well.
The only comment I would make is that I just signed a wire transfer to send $750,000 from our checking account to our tax pool account, since we're making such a large percentage. Still lower than inflation, but at least better than 0.03.
Yeah.
All right, anyone have any other questions for Carol or comments? Then I'll entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
I'll make a motion that we accept the financial report. Carol?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the financial reports. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Is any other comments on this? All those in favor of approving the financial reports say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will approve the financial reports. Item number 3, presentation of proceeds from the Montgomery Music and Mudbugs Festival by Charlie Diggs Entertainment. Charlie?
So we had 3809 paid attendance this year. A little less than last year, but obviously we don't know last year was right out of COVID and everybody was itching to get out. But it's still a phenomenal turnout. I don't know if y'all saw the videos. Do you have the video?
What's that? Sorry?
The video that had the videographer do?
I have not seen it, actually.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
So I don't have our report with me as far as what I owe you or whatever it is. I brought my check.
Okay. I think it's $1 per until 2,000, and then we have I think there's a contract here.
I had it in my truck, but I switched vehicles and forgot to pull it out.
Maybe I don't have it. So yeah, we can go through that after. I trust you, but it should be between $3,000 to $4,000, I would guess, based on that. So I thought, we talked about it right after the event. There were some comments about parking, of course, and traffic, but I was working with the Lions Club on parking personally, so I was out there until 7 p.m. and I only saw 4 or 5 cars come from the downtown area. Everyone else came up CB Stewart, and everyone stayed in the 2 parking areas. I didn't see, I saw some people pay for parking at Longview Greens, but I didn't see anyone going into the neighborhood on Racetrack, because you had adequate parking and it was close enough that people could just walk. There was no need for them to go back into that neighborhood, and nobody even parked in the city, I'll call it a lot, but Fernland, by Fernland, it worked out really well. So I'm not sure what the comments were from people who said that there was too much traffic because it was all 105.
Oh, I didn't even hear that comment.
That was
I
a
mean, it was just-
neighborhood thing, and
Yeah,
mainly
it
people who
was.
walk and this stuff. To be honest with you, it's people that just don't do festivals. That's kind of what I hear. If you don't like
Yeah.
festivals, you're probably not going to like all the traffic.
And I think it's sour grapes, because like you said, 3/4 of it, probably even more, was just on that portion of CD Stewart, which has no pedestrians and no homes and no other businesses, except for people going to Ransom. So it seems like, it was a good location, although I understand you might have to make some adjustments next year, so. But the parking, make sure the parking's that big, because that worked out well.
Yeah, do you still have access to those two fields that you used, or?
So the one in front, they're very eager to sell now. They weren't before. Any realtors, and from what I understand, Ransom stole, you might know, Ransom stole the one catty corner from them across the street. So as far as I know, we can still use the one, the southern side,
Yeah.
the intersection, southwest side,
Southwest.
for this coming one. And then we might have to shuttle from high school or something like that if we need to.
Like I said, we were in and out of there quick, and when time to leave, it was no problem whatsoever, so.
Yeah, we didn't have any issues, and PD said they didn't have any issues. Nobody went to jail, we didn't have any issues at all. DWI, none of that. So it went pretty flawless.
Right, and again, I was standing, right there, flagging people in or pushing them to the bigger lot. And so, it was nice having people who were saying, like, this lot's full, that lot right there, right there, right there. And just pushing everyone rather than letting them figure it out on their own. It works well to have, a group who's in charge of the parking rather than have it be a free-for-all.
For sure.
Yep.
So that, I'd say really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we give you clients for help with that.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that? Do you want to have a fake picture of the check handoff since you're here, and you want to do that with us? And we'll publish it later when the check is
Since he's
filled in?
here, yeah.
Okay.
Publish
Let's do your second one first, and then we'll decide how happy we are. No, I'm kidding. Okay, does anyone mind moving on to item number 4 then?
No, go ahead.
Okay, consideration and possible action regarding sponsorship of the Montgomery Fall Festival. Charlie, do you want to introduce that then, since you're here, it's here?
So yeah, it's gonna be the same as last year. We did get Josh Abbott Band, which is, some of you probably know, they started the Texas Band, they're a national act now. They're $60,000 by themselves. That ain't counting, Andy Griggs come from Nashville, all of them. We're gonna have to make some adjustments. I have not talked to the steakhouse owner yet as far as what we can use of his property. And then we talked the other day about using y'all's lot on Pfeffer. So once we figure all that out, I'll get back to let you know, at least to tell them. But we're all steam ahead going forward with it.
So Charlie, where was the festival? Not downtown, but just off?
Well, so that was one of the things I kind of wanted to see what y'all thought, because I looked over there today and I called her. It's possible to pull it off in that field next to school. But I know y'all have mixed emotions. Some of the business owners want it downtown, some don't. I want to do whatever makes everybody happy. I just don't want anybody mad. That lady last year bashed me all over Facebook.
Yeah.
Her business wasn't included, that was down the street.
What's the date you're considering for this year?
It's October 8th.
October 8th, okay. And so it's just really just a matter of deciding downtown or not, or downtown or close.
Yeah, our goal is Wednesday to go knocking and talk to all the business owners who would prefer downtown or don't prefer. I know the businesses that were open do great. They all love it. I've got several Facebook messages from them all complimenting. But the front part, like behind the donut shop, we didn't include that. The only reason I did include it is because the Wine Fest told me they didn't include it. And it was just more, for us to manage and secure and all that. Well, then I found out later she was mad that I didn't include her. So I didn't know. Like, some people don't want to be fenced in, some people do. So it's just trying to find a happy medium that everybody wants to do.
So if you did that, would you still have your same parking where you were maybe by the Longview Golf, or where?
Yeah, so last year what we did hay rides from there down to the festival and the drop
Okay.
right at the entrance gate.
Yeah. How many people can you fit in that particular space?
It's pretty tight.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I know somebody made a comment with 10,000 people. I don't think they know what 10,000 people is like. You can't get that many people down there. But,
Right.
with all the vendors set up and everything, I'm probably around 3,500.
Yeah. And would you put your vendors over maybe in the parking lot where the school is, or the school admin building is, or would you try to keep them all in that
Well,
same?
right now, I'd like to keep the whole thing downtown.
Right.
But if that's not.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Then we would
stage
up there.
is-
Okay.
Up there, we wouldn't have any issues on that side. My issues on my end would be the staging and the buses and all that, as far as where to put them if we're in that fenced-in area.
Yeah.
I would put the stage up in the corner on the northeast corner of that lot, which would be backed up to it, so it'd be kind of hard for me to get buses around it. There's a lot to figure out.
Okay, so if you go back downtown, where did you have the stage set up where it is now, or did you go to the Jacobs lot, or where did you?
So last year, we put it right in front of the center, and that's what we're planning on doing again this year.
Okay.
Yeah, now the bus is over on Jim's side on the street.
Oh, on Jim's
Yeah, the
side.
buses parked on my gym behind me.
Okay,
The
gotcha.
only thing we would change from the setup last year is we would move the kids zone. We had it down there by the food trucks
Okay,
on that little open lot.
yes.
We would move it to behind the center, just because we need that extra room for vendors over here. We can put that, people are going to go to kids zone regardless, no matter where it is. If they're vendors, they're not going to go behind the stage.
What's your preference? Downtown?
I like the atmosphere downtown, I really do, but I also don't want to upset anybody.
Good luck with that. You know, it's just never.
Well, what was the beef? Did you, I mean,
There was only two mad that I knew of, and one of them was the wine, it's some kind of wine place next to the steakhouse right on the corner. They do wine and paint or something like that.
okay, yeah.
We went by there numerous times, he was never there, and
They're only open on, yeah, they're only open on weekends.
yeah, he said it was like an appointment only deal, which he was just very aggressive, and he was yelling at Amy, and had I known that prior, I would have talked to him and said, okay, well, here's some wristbands to give your clients that are coming in, and we would have made it work. I just didn't know they were gonna be open, because they were never there when we went. The only other one was Boutique, but she's way up past the donut shop, almost to 105 right here.
Okay.
And she wanted me to bring the fencing all the way down just to include her in, but as I explained to her, people are going in and out, they have wristbands, they want to go to your place, they still go to your place.
Right.
By me fencing you in means that they're not gonna be able to go in and out, like they're
Yeah.
gonna be inside over there, and they're not gonna come down there. But there was no talking to her.
But
Like, now she invited me to lunch to go talk it out.
the rest of the businesses didn't have any
The
issues?
rest of the business praised us, they love
Yeah,
it.
the
All of it.
shops were full.
Yeah, I think we, we gotta try to keep it where it was, because people now know where it is.
Well, you just need to
It's just
communicate a little better, and you're not gonna make everybody happy.
The vibe for what he's doing, it works perfectly.
Downtown, yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Kinda like the-
Down the road.
Well, it recognizes the downtown area, is what it
Yeah.
does, and it sets it
Yeah,
up.
and it's a fall festival atmosphere, that's what I want is, vendors down both sides of the street. We had a big pumpkin patch set up, it was beautiful, people were taking pictures
Yeah.
the whole time. It was just a really perfect day, perfect weather and everything.
Can we give him complete access to all the business so he can specifically address them?
We cannot, I mean, that's more of a private sector to private sector than a government
Yeah.
intervention leveraging anything, but, I mean, I think,
Do we not
Charlie's
have
got
Amy
charm,
anymore?
Charlie's got
Amy? She's not here
wristbands.
no more.
I think that's something that Charlie can do well on its own, especially knowing that people were happy last year, were happy to sign and happy
That's good
to,
price for
go
a
under the same arrangement. Who was unhappy last
Oh,
year, so you can totally find an accommodation because
That's crazy.
you're a businessman, so you know
Oh, yeah.
like how to talk the talk and how to reach something that makes both of you happy. So I have a feeling that Charlie would be the best person to solve his own problems.
Yeah, I'll pass it off. And that was one of the things, the business owners that did reach out, they asked me to please not move it, because they liked it, they wanted it there, and they wanted more events like that there. And I said, I like it, but I also don't want to bash on social media, just because I didn't include somebody that I didn't know wanted to be included.
Right.
Well, I think if you're proactive this time, it was the first year, right, down there?
Yeah.
I think if you're proactive this time, you'll have a much better response,
Well, and he was
because,
proactive last time. I think the big difference is, one of the unhappy ones was the steakhouse, and what you had agreed upon was either not clear or had changed after the agreement, and so having everything in writing will obviously it's more about how do you like them apples, you did agree to this, and I think that having written,
They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Wow.
And wine and design will be fine too. They just need to be talked to. It's a very,
Yeah, the landlord was super nice.
Yeah.
The guy that owns the property.
Right.
But the renter was
Yeah.
he was cussing and, fingering Amy's face so much that the headliner, one of the bands, went over there and got on to him about it.
oh, that's it.
So, knowing those people have issues, those are going to be my first people to go to and ask, what do you want me to do to make you happy, so we're all happy.
right?
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can successfully navigate that way better than we can, because we don't really have anything to offer, really. I mean, if there is something you need to come to us, let us know if we can help, but generally speaking, I think the more the government is left out,
Yep.
probably the happier everyone is. Unless you feel differently. Now, your application, you did not put in a dollar amount that you were asking for. I think last year you asked for $8,000. Is that approximately what you're asking?
That's what we did.
That's what you're asking for this year? Okay. And that's to, and I think you paid about that in security costs, right? So those are.
Yeah, we ended up paying a little bit over that.
Okay.
All of Montgomery PD.
Right, okay. So that ends up being yeah, okay. Does anyone have any other questions or comments or would like to make a motion?
I make the motion, we approve the sponsorship of the 2022 Montgomery Fall Festival as stated in item 3,
For how much?
$8,000.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we sponsor the 2022 Montgomery Fall Festival in the amount of $8,000. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? I do have one comment. Just FYI, this would come out of the 2022-2023 budget that we're working on right now.
Yeah, it is. on-
Okay.
And we
We
can
did put
allocate
it
it
on there. Yes.
for
I
that
believe
also
so.
anyway, so.
Yep.
Yep. And I just have one comment. The communication has got to be upped this year due to some of the problems from last year. And that's the only thing. We had someone new helping us, and it was their first time to do any large festival, to my knowledge. And so that's all I've heard about it, is that they want the communication to be better this year.
Who am I speaking with this year?
So we
I
don't
think
have
you're
anyone
on your
other than
own.
our code enforcement person, but from what I.
Just look in the mirror, Charlie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so your responsibility is the festival permit that comes from the city, and then the food vendor permits, which the city issues, and I believe that's all that we're requiring.
Did y'all, the community center?
I'll double check on renting, Mike's gonna double check on renting that,
Yeah, I heard back.
and
I
probably
told
the
her back in
7th and
March
9th too, 7th,
about
8th,
that
and
date.
9th of October. Sorry, could you say that again?
I said, I told Amy back in March that we secured that date, we had to move, we were trying to do it on the 15th again, but Catfish Fest moved theirs to that weekend, so we backed it up. a weekend.
Right, no, I had another event that got pushed back in order to accommodate you, so.
Right now, it's for the 7th and 8th, but you need it for the 9th also.
I think, given the way the cleanup situation was, which is actually another issue, I think, like, we can't have downtown looking like it did, the morning, Sunday morning. So if you can have like more trash cans.
Yeah, we've changed that, we're used to doing stuff in fields and stuff where everybody goes home, we come back the next day and clean it all up.
Mhm.
That didn't work downtown, people didn't want, they wanted to clean up right away, so we actually have a crew now that stays there until it's all done.
Okay, that would be great. And-
Wonderful.
Like the porta cans and stuff, those will be there probably till Monday morning, but
Which
the
is
trash
fine.
itself.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was just the quantity of trash and the few number of receptacles that was a big shocker. I wouldn't even mind if it was there on Sunday morning if everything was in the trash can, which I know is too much to ask for somebody to walk, 20 steps to put something in a trash can instead of just throwing it on the ground. But, even just having enough for, the trash that was next to the trash cans, everything was just overflowing.
Yeah, it was.
So that was, there was a lot. So,
I know they're just 7 o'clock Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I know, there are a lot of people involved in cleaning that up, so for sure, it's one of those things as a consumer, you don't realize, you just show up and then you leave, or, in this case, you have taking pictures of little baby goats, you just don't realize how much debris is generated by an event like that until everyone leaves.
And we fill up 2 roll-offs from music and buffaloes, because you add crawfish to it, so
Right.
it's extra trash.
Right, that's amazing.
Okay.
All right, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of sponsoring the 2022 Montgomery Fall Festival in the amount of $8,000 out of the 2022-2023 budget, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will sponsor the 2022 Montgomery Fall Festival in the amount of $8,000 out of the 2022-2023 budget. Charlie, can we take a picture of you with everyone with your checkbook, and then we'll get to the details after? If you have the information. Yeah, you can do it, that'd be great. If you can, you have the details in the card, then that's great.
We're gonna go.
Yeah, or you can.
I'm standing behind Wade.
Right
You
here.
can do some.
All crunched in.
I've actually got a big check, I was brought it.
As I say, do some of you want to stand, some here, some back there, so you can all fit in this little spot? Byron, do you want to come down here too?
Sure.
Yeah. We can squeeze in a little bit, right?
Yeah, we will.
Center.
There you go. All right. Say cheese. Cheese. Maybe one more, a little closer. Got it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Wednesday or something like that. Okay, that's fine. Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. All right, item number 5, presentation by Mid-South regarding internet service for city and surrounding area. Will? All right, so there's your clicker. See how far it goes.
Yeah. That's it.
Second internet service?
Yeah,
Thanks for that.
I will stay for that.
We have a very hard time getting internet service.
All right. Well, good afternoon. I'm William Bond. I'm the sales manager for Mid-South Fiber. And this is Stacy Fortison, Chief of Communications Manager for Mid-South. And today we want to try to describe to you as best as we can your tagline, Urban Services, Rural Hospitality, and why it explains Mid-South.
So there's a difference between Mid-South Fiber Internet and many other internet services in the area. One is Mid-South Fiber Internet is owned by Mid-South Electrical Co-op, and there is a difference when it comes to co-ops. Mid-South has been around, member-owned by community members here for over 80 years now. We were originally established by local residents. And I don't know if we told you guys, because we knew you would be able to see this, we furnished the slides there on your side. Next slide. Oh, good.
We can see.
I didn't see that. We have a tender service with our fiber internet because it's based on the same service that we have to provide for electricity. We are subscriber focused, and one example I wanted to give to that is when COVID hit, we had started putting in fiber to the areas where we already service electricity, but it became quickly apparent that we had some areas within our communities that did not have access to reliable high-speed internet. And all of a sudden, we had kids needing to do school online and adults needing to work from home online in order to support their families. So what was originally supposed to be a 5-year project, our employees jumped in and turned into a 2-year project. Of course, all along that time, we were establishing service and getting people live, but it completed overall in 2 years, all during the height of COVID when we too could not meet together and see each other in person. And in that, I want to turn it back over to Will and just say, the same people who developed that infrastructure 3 years early also now service our businesses on fiber internet.
Yep. So I just want to run through just priority status, the 24/7 support and custom solutions that our businesses have access to. The priority status, meaning if there's bulk outages within our area of any sort, businesses will take precedence over anybody else. We know that people's livelihoods and just the business aspect needs to keep going. So those outages happen, businesses are first ones to get back on. With that also, the 24/7 support, we found that that's also a huge advantage, whereas a lot of the ISPs within our community are going to tell you you can wait till tomorrow, or it's going to be 2 to 3 days, and you're going to get the window between 8 and noon. Hopefully you can take off work and get there and be present, or we're not going to show up type deal. 24/7 support, we're willing to call somebody out. If we can't fix it over the phone, we can have a tech usually on the road within 45 minutes. And just an example, we had an executive for a fairly large company in the Woodlands that lives in our service territory that he was having an event, multiple, I think 100, 200 people at his house. Well, what had happened, he ended up cutting the conduit at his house. The internet went down. We thought of it as a necessity during the party. And he told us within an hour and a half. And when he got a call to when the fiber was restored, it was only that hour and a half. So we like to pride ourselves on service and reliability. So that service being, hey, we're willing to come get you on. We understand. We have sympathy. We understand that you got to have the internet to keep going. Custom solutions. In the pack that y'all have in front of y'all will see, I know we probably jumped a little bit ahead. The third slide actually shows you the free business packages that we provide for small businesses, 100 meg, 500 meg, and gig. But we also offer custom solutions. We can do DIA, direct internet access, point-to-points, and other things of that nature. So there's a lot that we can offer, and we're ready to serve all the businesses within the community of Montgomery County. Stacey?
Yes, so we were established as an electric cooperative and owned by your community members, we're committed to that same community. I think that's rather obvious in that our employees established a 5-year service infrastructure within 2 years just to serve their neighbors. We're subscriber focused. We wanted to reiterate this just in the fact that our operations are designed with our consumers in mind. And the reason being, our consumers are our owners. So we're not owned by, people trying to make money off the project. We're owned by our members. And so therefore, we are constantly held accountable to them for providing this service.
One thing I wanted to touch base on up there for the custom solutions, we are currently in the works of having a presence at the Westland Bunker as well. So a lot of corporate big businesses that need the direction to get back into Harris County. For example, Harris County 911 is utilizing us to get from their Huntsville satellite campus, get back to, I guess, downtown area. So with that presence in there, it opens up the access of several different pathways of presence that these businesses can use to get back to, I guess, their home base. Like I said earlier, these are the 3 packages that we provide to our business members. 100, 500 gig, you're basically at $100, $200, $400. All of those, including that 24/7 support. There is no data throughout all the businesses with whatever we can get.
Yeah, those speeds are upload and download, and if you've had internet for any period of time, you probably run into it every now and then. There's certain times of the day or certain times of the month when it just seems to you like maybe this isn't quite as fast as it once was, or that it was 2 weeks ago. And that's called throttling your speed. And that's a pretty common practice among internet providers. Mid-South does not throttle speeds when you start getting, when you're reaching maximum data quota. We just wanted to basically make that point. And then the other point, and you may have touched on this, Will, and sometimes I don't know, is we established this fiber infrastructure with state-of-the-art equipment. We are right up there, top of the line with everyone else. We're not your little, podunk company out in the backwoods that came along and decided to do fiber internet. We have put in top of the line everything so that, like Will said, we're even in the bunker and we're already being used by, very large companies and so forth. That is because they see the advantages that we can provide with that, with our equipment.
Right, and then also, just as a heads up for everybody, our system is completely built out. So you're looking as far south as Conroe, far north as North Gulch, east Huntsville, west Navasota, and a lot of everything in between. So wherever you see our electrical infrastructure, fiber is in that same exact place. So everybody's.
Even though we're part of Entergy's, we don't have the electricity choice, but you guys, I think, service our electric wires, right? You're the maintenance provider.
If it's Entergy does all of it.
So that means you guys don't come inside the city limits?
Not yet.
Just out on the west side.
Okay.
Not yet. So that's another good topic. We're in the works. We finished out building our system with the plan of moving, and because there is no service territory with fiber. Unlike the electric territories, Entergy has this. Nobody can come in here. It's a single certified. Mid-South has this. It's a single certified. Fiber or in the internet space is wide open. Wherever you'd like to go, you can go. So we have plans to build out in the cities that are within our community, Montgomery, Anderson, Madisonville, all those areas, Minnesota. It's just a matter of money, financials, and feasibility studies, and time.
So do you have a time frame for making that happen?
Not right now. I'd love to tell you it's going to be within the year, but it all change. Like I said, it's all about financial feasibility.
So do you share when you're going into another ETJ, say in town here, where it's, I don't know who's even here, whether it's Time Warner or whoever is providing, but are you sharing the line, or are you having to run your own service?
We prefer to run our own, just because we know how to maintenance our infrastructure, and we don't want the reliability to be cut down if we were to maintain or use somebody else's. We don't know how they're going to maintenance their infrastructure compared to us. So we have a really high expectation on that, and we want to make sure that our customers have the reliability that they need.
So are you doing, so you don't have television service yet, I'm assuming? Is it going to be just, I guess, streaming?
Internet and phone at the moment. TV is still in the talks, but at the moment, just internet and TV. Oh, sorry.
Can I ask a few questions? How many customers do you currently have?
We're approaching 10,000. We're getting really close. And that number just keeps growing every day. We know the developments are coming in the Montgomery County area. So I actually used to work for the engineering department, design and developments, and they're coming. There's a lot of developments in this area. It's just a matter of time that they're going to need internet as well. So that number is.
So is this the same company as Mid-South Electric, or is it different?
Mid-South Electric is the parent company, and then Mid-South Fiber is a subsidiary. So Mid-South Electric being a nonprofit, and Mid-South Fiber being a for-profit.
Just checking on Google. I'm not a good devil's advocate, by the way, but 53 reviews and 1.7 stars. A lot of them said they'd like to give you 0 stars at Mid-South Electric. I know you're not electric, you're fiber, but the reason I ask that is because, service is a big issue. And you talk about Suddenlink or Consolidated. I've been with Consolidated for 7 years now at my store in the center of Montgomery, and it's beautiful. I've never had a problem, not a single day, although I have Verizon as a backup. But Suddenlink, forget it. They're changing their name. They're so bad. So I don't blame them. But when I see these kind of numbers, I couldn't survive on those kind of numbers. So my question is, what's going to be different about the internet service and the service department that maybe the electric department is not providing?
So prior to the recent spike in natural gas prices, our Google numbers were not so low on the electric co-op side. There's no doubt on our social media platforms, which gas prices went up.
Yeah.
And that in turn made their electric bill go up. And they perceived that as being that Mid-South raised their rates.
I understand.
Which Mid-South has not raised their rates in over a decade, actually. We have not raised our rate. That is a pass-through charge coming from ERCOT.
Yeah.
And we do a ton of education trying to let our membership know that. But again, you're always, just like you were talking earlier about, there's always going to be those that are disappointed and you can't change everything just to accommodate them sometimes. We have those that no matter what we do, and they are the ones who go on Google. Now, we actually could adjust that if we wanted to and take it down. We can do the same on our social media sites where it would not be necessarily everything everyone said about us all the time, but we choose to leave everything up, the good, bad, and the ugly, and let our membership air it out regardless of what it is. And so that's how I would explain the recent low reviews on Google. In fact, we really, to be honest with you, prior to this WPCA charge, the wholesale power cost adjustment, really nobody had done anything on Google for Mid-South Electric. Like, we had 0 reviews, 0 traffic, no one was even Googling us ever, and then all of a sudden it blew up in the last month.
Well, just so you know, I'm going back 9, 10 months ago, 2 years. I'm going all the way back. So it wasn't just recently, and I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, we deal with people who don't understand very well, and it's just all in the way you handle it, I guess. But you know, I'm sure, you know, with that many customers, you're going to have some folks who are not happy. It's just the way you handle it. And so I think, you know, where you find Suddenlink, their big beef is that their customer service is not lacking, it's non-existent, and they just don't care. And, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so being, you know, I worked with Co-op, San Bernard Electric, and some others, and they do care, and they do come out when you call. They know you by name, and you know, the co-ops are supposed to be like that. But I just want to make sure that the rest of the board knows too that, you know, when we're vetting a new company, we have to make sure that we're giving the people who depend on us to vet you the best amount of information that we can, and it is important to have be well received.
Correct. So just today, we constantly run surveys and reach out to our members to get reports on how we're performing and that sort of thing, in their opinion. I received an updated one this morning that we're at 85% approval rate across our membership, which is almost 40,000 people, or 40,000 meters, 40,000 households.
Okay.
So our approval rating is 85%. Out of all of the co-ops in Texas, that's actually at the very high end. And within our cooperative association within the state of Texas, I'm not sure about the national ranking, and Will may know, but our outage response times are groundbreaking.
So what do you need our approval for? Is it just to say it's okay to come into the area? And wouldn't that be a city council thing?
Just information only.
Only
Just want to
information.
make a presentation.
Because would this lay the groundwork for maybe future electrical services as well?
No.
No? Okay.
That's the state government's monopoly question that.
That's all.
It's like water districts.
I would venture a guess, just the 2 years that I've been here, of course, I live on the west end, where the complaints in 2 years for Mid-South out there, next to none, compared to the folks in here who are screaming about their energy service.
Sure you couldn't
everything else
switch
going
over
on.
for maybe help with the electrical side of things? That would be nice.
So I'm assuming this WCPA, whatever it is going to be a reoccurring charge forever, or, I mean, yeah, I got $147 on my bill
So
yesterday. I was
it's
like,
actually
wow.
always been there, and every company calls it something else. Some will incorporate it into their rate, and you don't necessarily see it. You just think their rates are doing like this, or they just keep their rate really high to accommodate. And on Mid-South, we actually have always had it through WPCA, but no one's ever noticed because it's either been 0 or a credit many, many times. And so it's only been recently, with all of the turmoil going on in the world, truly, and definitely in the U.S., that it just took a huge spike, and now we see it.
I just have one last question. I'll leave y'all alone. What are the setup fees for either residents or businesses?
What are the fees?
The setup.
install.
Like, router and installation, that kind of.
Okay, so for installation alone, it's free. If you're in our electric territory, installation is free. There's no contract, and then you basically pay the monthly charge that you see, or you saw up there.
Okay.
And then routers are $10 a month. If you need static IP addresses, they're $15 for the first, $10 after each one after that.
Gotcha,
So,
okay. Okay, that's really all I had.
Well, I met these two at a chamber meeting several weeks ago. We talked, and I'm a victim of Suddenlink. Big time. And so, and also hearing everything about the energy company and everything else, and also going in all these different businesses and wanting to post on Facebook and support those businesses or whatever, and you get the first letters in and nothing's popping up, and I'm saying, bless their hearts.
Yeah.
Bless their hearts. How can we get them up near the top somehow? So it's educating them and also providing them some sort of service to get out there. And I know there's one business in here that doesn't get any of that mix or mingle. It's a pet group. And I go into that store, and sure enough, 80-something% of their business is on this thing.
Right.
It ain't people walking into the store. Now, somehow, I'm hoping we get the types of businesses drawn down there for those people we hope to get assimilating down there, right? Because I'm tired of hearing this over and over and over about, we got too many real estate, no offense, Wade, got too many real estate offices, got too many insurance salesmen, got this, got that. I just want to, as a city, get proactive in getting the right businesses down there. And if perhaps a carrot is saying, we've got the best fiber in the dang country.
Yeah.
And because that's where things happen. People shop online. They just do. And when they're in these small metal buildings and there's restrictions or whatever it is, I just don't want any excuses. And we're sitting around here and we're not really actively trying to get these businesses up on their feet after America gets a better president in place and we start rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
So that was my whole thinking.
So you do not have a plan as to when it might come inside the city limits of Montgomery?
There's a plan for sure. So they call it phase 4, and there's definitely different sections of where we would go. Our main focus would be, if you ever saw our service territory, there's some fingers that show voids of where our fiber or our electric service arm is. And we plan to fill all the voids. Basically, wherever energy serves within our outer boundary is where we'd like to go in. To be quite frank, the designs are done. The designs are done, like I was saying earlier, it's just financial feasibility and getting the funding that's necessary to build it out. Because it's not cheap. It's definitely not cheap. But especially the equipment and the infrastructure that we're putting in place, we're not trying to do it for the short time. It's for the long haul.
So for the city of Montgomery's information, we just need to wait until you're closer
Yes,
to
ma'am.
getting into our area?
Well, is that necessarily the case? And we say this because we're constantly, so, we're just all coming out of COVID, right? And we had our heads down building fiber out.
Right.
Now we're just emerging going, oh, now we can sell fiber, right? But it took all hands on deck to get it built out. We have established service in some places where the customer paid the construction costs coming out to their location. So, and we have some other cities talking to us about that and so on and so forth. So it's not to say you would never have access to it unless we came here first. You would certainly have access to it if you requested it, and we're willing to help pay some of the construction costs. And which is basically how we're set up with electric as well. In fact, when I moved here to the area a couple of years ago, I bought some property that was rural and out in the middle of nowhere. Come to find out it was in the middle of Mid-South territory, but it was a mile from their last electrical drop, and I paid that construction cost out to my property. So it's the same with fiber. I think what Will is alluding to is that, but, do we have it on our radar to go there anyway? We do. When that will be exactly, we can't give you an exact date for that.
Okay.
And we are working now with the development as well as we went up to the city of Madisonville and talked to that city manager too, because they're waiting, especially up there. They have hardly anything. They've got satellite internet, and I don't know if y'all ever work on satellite internet. It's not
good
at all. So
Do you have any competitors that are trying to come into the area as well, or is it just you guys?
There's a bunch here. So you have Consolidated, I think you have Comcast, Suddenlink,
So we don't have Comcast in the city limits.
not in the city limits.
No.
Rebecca, is there a monopoly on these?
No, there's no government.
No, there's no
restrictions.
ETJ on fiber.
Okay.
So Tackus is just outside the city limits on the eastern side, and I don't know why they haven't continued rolling it out. But I think their intent was to come in as well. But there's no monopoly for the provision of service. You just have to spend the money to roll it out. But so far it's just Comcast and whatever Suddenlink is calling themselves.
Okay.
Well, I've been a member with you guys since before we hired Kerry Kelton, so I mean, you've worked with us pretty close when we were doing Montgomery Trace, and then of course High Meadow Estates. I mean, we're on the electrical side of fiber. Yeah, but my place is out here off of 1097 Bailey Grove, and I noticed you guys have run it through. I'm probably going to give you a try. I've got Consolidated because they were the only people out there 20 years ago. And I'm on analog dial-up, so you're talking about throttling. But the television service is important because I don't want to go back to the dish because it's the same way on the television side too. When a cloud blows in, you're not watching, so.
Is it underground or overhead?
And within our system, it follows wherever the electric is. So if the electric's overhead, you'll see it.
Makes sense, yeah.
Below the neutral line, if it's underground, you won't be able to see it.
Well, first, I just want to thank you for these amazing packets that you gave us too. I haven't had a gift in a long time, and thank you, Stacy. And forgive me for being a little bit frank. I just like to make sure that everybody, we ask the hard questions as well as the easy. Okay?
All right.
All right.
Good.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So if y'all are okay with it, we'll move on to item number 6. Consideration and possible action on the acceptance of the Moore Archaeological Consulting Report pertaining to the Adams lot and instruct the MEDC president to close on the purchase of the property. All right, has everyone had a chance to look at the document that is referenced? Sorry, go ahead.
That's on drive.
Oh, Mike, don't pull it up without that closing.
You might want that.
Did you see that? Did you read this archaeological report? Okay. I mean, is there anything in there that?
Sounds to me like the kids are buried in the other cemetery.
So I was gonna say, so let's speak loudly so we can hear. We'll either listen or not, whichever he prefers.
Thank you.
Okay, so regarding the document, Jeff, I thought I heard you say, did Wade see anything in it that what?
He just asked if I had read it.
Okay.
I have.
Yeah, and I just wanted to know if there was anything in there that would preclude us from pushing forward. I mean, and he said it's an opinion that these folks have put on. So it doesn't look like there's anything super concrete. I mean, did you see anything super concrete?
No, it looks like they used Ancestry.com.
I thought the city approved this report and doing the solar thing, or whatever it's
So
called.
the
Did
point
they
is-
decide not, that we don't need to do that? Who decided that?
So
Tell me.
after having a discussion with the more people, and it's actually, let me see if I can find what page, it might be the conclusion, there will be nothing to find with sonar or radar, whatever they use.
And they stated that in their report?
Or it's highly unlikely. So given the composition of the soil.
Yes, it does state it in there.
And given the
It does state
age
it in
Yeah, they were talking about those.
of the elapsed amount of time, there's
Based on the
nothing,
acidity of soils. and-
Yes.
there's nothing to find, just because, even.
So we
even if
could
there-
take this to court, we could give a copy of this to the Historical Society.
We can.
Use this copy to assure people that we've done our duty.
I believe, yes, as well as Ms. Adams sent me a note saying that she felt that the tree was actually
In the middle of 149.
in the middle of 149, as opposed to on the property that we were purchasing.
Okay.
based on her own family documents.
But I'm
she-
just saying, this report right here will take care of EDC and the city doing their job to make sure there were no graves there. This report.
I believe so, yes. She also sent a notarized document that says, I, Virginia Adams, owner of the above lot and heir to the Nathaniel Hart Davis, sorry, not him, the Nathaniel Hart Davis, owner from 1839, will have remains of babies moved to my cemetery plot at my expense in the unlikely event that any remains, 168-year-old remains are found. So we have this as well,
Oh, that's good.
should something later arise during construction. If there is construction,
After that occurs, yeah.
that occurs at some distant point in the future, obviously we're not contemplating that. But again, the archaeological report is just saying based on, what they know about how carbon-based things decompose, it's just spending $10,000 on a ground penetrating radar survey it will find things, but not those things, right? Because anytime, there are trees in the lot, that are alive, there are trees that, have fallen down. So you'll obviously find anomalies underground, but any anomaly that you find and then investigate will not be those remains based on the age. And
So
from,
Dave has a copy of this report,
he does,
and then you have a notarized
I
statement,
do,
and so you'll print it out or bring
Yes.
it to Dave and he can print it out
yes,
and he'll make a
yes,
folder of this
right.
item.
Right, and also just from a religious perspective, they, I believe, were burying the family at the Methodist cemetery across the street at the time. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Methodists don't believe in original sin, which means that I'm not sure why they would have buried the babies on the property when the cemetery was right there.
Walking distance to it, they would have done that.
120 feet, wouldn't it? Isn't that what it says in the report?
So, I mean, it's one of those things, like, I mean, I'm not sure, as a grieving parent, of course, things were harsh back then,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
sorry, your baby's going to hell. I don't think the Methodists were doing that, they would be welcome in the church.
Well, it sounds like we have a recourse and an agreed to recourse in the event there was something to be found.
Right. So I
And
think-
that's really, to Carol's point, that's really the
Affidavit or signed
An affidavit, that's all you need.
Right,
That's-
so I think first, the historical evidence points to it being somewhere else if it did happen. Second, that time has passed so that there wouldn't be anything to find. Third, we have financial recourse.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
So what's the motion?
So the motion would be accepting the Moore Archaeological Consulting Report pertaining to the Adams lot and instructing the MEDC president to close on the purchase of the property.
Okay.
Because this is what was holding us up. We actually pushed back the closing date in order for everyone to have their ability to weigh in on this, because it's, this is not, this is a lot of money.
I'll make the motion then. Make the motion to accept the Moore Archaeological Consulting Report pertaining to the Adams lot and instruct the MEDC president to close on the purchase of the property.
I second it.
It has been moved on and seconded that we accept the Moore Archaeological Consulting Report pertaining to the Adams lot and instruct the MEDC president to close on the purchase of the property. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the Moore Archaeological Consulting Report pertaining to the Adams lot and instructing the MEDC president to close on the purchase of the property say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will accept the Moore Archaeological Consulting Report pertaining to the Adams lot and instruct the MEDC president to close on the purchase of the property. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take one moment and tell Ms. Adams that it did pass.
Just for the record, thank you, Wade.
Oh,
Thank you for all your hard work in getting it
Yes,
done.
thank
That was,
you bet. There's a lot more involved than just me. Thank
yeah,
you.
I know, but still, couldn't have done it without you.
All right, and if you don't mind, actually, I'd like to jump to number 10 before we go to number 7, just because that item might pertain or impact how we look at number 7. Sorry, Mike. So item number 10, discussion on the possibility of the MEDC funding in full or part MLK sidewalks. Would you like to introduce it? Please do.
The city applied for 2 TxDOT transportation alternative grants in 2021 for 2 sidewalk projects, but was not awarded the funding for either project. One application was Klepper Street, Bessie Price Owens sidewalk, and one was MLK sidewalk project. The MEDC funded a sidewalk project that included a portion of Klepper Street grant application that connects the historic downtown to Fernland Historical Park and adjacent city properties used for event purposes. During a recent city council budget workshop, Councilwoman Patricia Easley requested the MLK sidewalk project be presented to MEDC for consideration. Construction cost estimate from 2021 and details about the scope of the MLK sidewalk project are attached for reference. Please note that engineering design costs are not included in the cost estimate and will be around $40,000 in additional project costs. City staff intends to reapply for TxDOT mobility grants in the 2023 call for projects. So in a nutshell, the capital projects fund, we had to take out several of the items that we wanted to do for next year. We had to lower the amount for some other items. This was one that just didn't make the cut. It really came down to a matter of choosing between this and the roundabout project that Precinct 1 has verbally committed 50% to. That amount of our share is $265,000. We thought that that was a better pick for next year than this, but we were asked to bring this to MEDC for consideration. So one of your alternatives that you could have, I know this sidewalk does not have as much of a really an EDC impact as the Klepper Street, but what you could elect to do is choose to fund the roundabout project for the city, and then that would free up city funds to do the sidewalks. That's just an option you have.
When is the grant open again? Did it say
I don't know.
2023?
Yeah, 2023, I don't know exactly what month, but that's when we're going to apply for them again.
And I know that Dave has applied twice and got turned down, but he is going to some classes. He's not going, I'm sorry, he's taking them online.
He is.
Through TxDOT or through a grant writer to help him get this third one better.
That's correct.
Okay.
So this, did I hear correctly that this whole MLK hope or dream or promise is a 6-year deal? In other words, it's taken us 5-6 years to get turned down twice for a grant or something to that effect?
So I don't know the answer to if it's been 6 years or not. That's not, I'm not.
Well, even if we presume that it is, when I go out and talk to people on the campaign trail or whatever and boast of how the MEDC has put so much money into the Klepper project, guess what I get in return? Oh, they've been saying that for 5 or 6 years. So here's my inquiry, you know, as I wrote to Dave. Is it a normal practice to have a contingency line item based upon the potential of a grant sitting there year after year? Or are situations like this just setting ourselves up for something? I guess is my deal. I mean, You know what I'm saying? I mean, is it necessary to
What do
put a
you mean by-
contingency in a line item that says MLK sidewalks for just the situation that when you get to the end of the budget, you go, that's not there. And then that 250, we all know how budgets, we don't all know, but we know that budgets are like crazy. But are we setting ourselves up for situations like this when we know that we're trying to get a grant and chances are unclear, time is unclear, strings are attached to these grants, but we choose to put something out there that makes a false hope and puts us just in these situations? That's my only thing. Can we get away from these practices of doing such a thing?
I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that for you.
I didn't-
But I can't say it's a bad practice to try to, some of these grants are reimbursement grants. So you have to. spend
And this
money up
was
front.
one.
So you
This-
have to plan for it, or come up with $250,000 on Williams' notice if you.
But if it's a 6-year project, but if it was, and I don't know, and you obviously don't either, but heck, you can wait until the grant comes in 8 months later and then get into your budget and say, okay, 3 more months, we're ready to roll, let's put it in the budget then. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we can avoid these types of things, because that's what it looks like. And that's when you come in, you bring a couple of council members in, and they're looking and they're going, well, we've been hearing this for 6 years. And the people on the CLEP are the same thing. I'm just asking us as a city to reconsider the process there, because we all know, even if you got the grant, okay, now we go out to bids. That's another 3 months. It's not like we got to rush within this window of 12 months and say, okay, we'll set this up with a reimbursement. Send the grant out based on the promise of it, and then when we get into the next budget year, put that in the budget and then roll with it. That way you don't have to, and again, I'm an elected official, and Carol's an elected official, and so we get this all the time. And so we think we're doing something good. We go out there and, oh, they've been saying that for you. Well, let's quit saying that.
Well, so to be clear about Klepper, the problem with Klepper has always been that it's another one of the Montgomery rinky-dink, I'm gonna spend $5 and I'm gonna waste it, so it goes down the drain because it's gonna last 1 minute, as opposed to waiting until I can afford to spend what it costs to do a quality job and get it done right the first time, and it lasts for its intended life cycle.
So there was a boo-boo that happened, right? Or a series
Well, I
of
mean, like
boo-boos.
some of the stuff that was installed, like it's all in the wrong place, like it's not the right height. I mean, it's just, some of the stuff that was previously done is just, well, I won't say it's a waste of money. I mean, I assume we can salvage some of it, but, you know, putting in, like, one of the projects that we didn't go forward with was a 3-foot sidewalk. So, you know, that's, you know, we're talking
Too rinky-dink.
now, we're installing an ADA sidewalk with, you know, the curb cuts and all the way down. So it's not just this piece of sidewalk that goes and stops in a grass field somewhere and doesn't actually take you anywhere.
Right.
You know, again, that's,
So the Klepper
that's why
thing
it's
was
taken
not
a long
the
time.
result of grant waiting.
No.
That's, you know, again,
So that was a
that's why the
completely
town looks the way it
different-
does, because, you know, again, we've spent money, it's, you know,
Klepper
downhill.
Street was a grant project probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
So that's where
Through
people
the
get the idea.
chamber.
Yeah.
And they didn't get that grant either. And city council didn't fund it once they didn't get the grant. But MLK, in my memory, has only been a couple of years,
Dave's
not.
memo here, it says that in 21, both were applied for.
Now,
MLK and Cleveland.
here's my, I don't understand how MLK is an MEDC.
So I don't actually think it is either, but I'm wondering if, you know, if the city budget, you know, the capital projects budget is, you know, has too many things pulling from it, if we can swap out something that is an MEDC project, so they can swap that back in if it's a priority. So, you know, like the roundabout is a similar price project, and the roundabout would be, you know, perfect for us, except for I know how you feel about roundabouts.
I'm not voting for no.
But, you know, it's happening anyway, and
I
it
know.
is, you know, for that area, you know, mobility, and, you know.
I haven't
in-
seen a plan on it yet, so it's not definite.
But mobility and improvement in efficiency and reduction in backups and waiting and safety, you know, those are MEDC type of goals. So, you know, that project, you know, you could do a swap, or you could just say to city council, you know, what other projects do you have that you had to cut from your budget that you would like us to take on? And maybe just
I've
send
got
it
some
back.
examples here, if y'all need. We cut, let's see, lift station improvements, which we had some plans to go into lift station 3 and lift station 5. We originally had $510,000 in the budget, we cut that to 0. Sanitary sewer and manhole rehab, we had $978,000 in the budget, we cut it to $500,000. This is a smaller line item, but the next phase of sanitary sewer cleaning and televising was $90,000. And then the Buffalo Springs, those are high-ticket items that, you know, we could easily put money back into either of those, even if it was,
But that's on
Back into the city.
that's on the city side though, right, Mike?
yes, that's on.
Right. But again, that's something that we could say, you know, we have in our budget $160,000 for city capital projects. You know, obviously there are a lot of city capital projects that they're cutting out. You know, do we want to put more money aside for city capital projects this year? Because
What do you
there's a
think,
lot to do.
Carol? I mean, some of it makes sense, but not all of it, right? As long as we have control over where it goes, or no?
Yeah, we definitely do, because the way we've done it the past couple of years is say, you know, bring us a project, we'll say yes or no. And, you know, it needs to fit within our parameters, which is why we're not willy-nilly just transferring money in. But, you know, as long as it fits within our guidelines, then we can say yes.
What projects will bring the most benefit to the most people?
Right.
Is what we have to look at. I mean, it looks to me, I mean, I go by this every day on my way to town, and most of it's all drop off. I mean, I don't see any kids walking to school. I mean, it's all moms and SUVs. So I'm
Chief
just wondering-
agreed to do a traffic study, and I can promise you that traffic study is not going to be any different. There's no more traffic there, there's just no more developments back there, and that's just the way it is.
Right.
And the big developments that are coming, is 299 homes right there that are going to be hitting Lone Star and Buffalo Springs in the
I
next
think we
year.
need, you know, we need to focus, Byron, on the areas around the center of downtown where we're gonna be making our development
Right.
push, put our dollars in the areas where we can get the biggest bang for the buck, and not just spend it willy-nilly, like you said, but put it in the areas where where we are focused on redevelopment. And we want to bring light to the downtown community. It's a 4 square mile city, so we got to kind of focus in the area. It's not a big city, it's a small city, but we should focus in the areas where we think we can get, you know, the greatest impact, you know, right? From an infrastructure standpoint.
Well, who's going to bring, what's going to bring people to town?
Right, right. I mean, Klepper is a good project, that's why we all agreed on that. But you know, but this is,
It's kind of like a satellite.
yeah, it's maybe down the road kind of thing, but and keep going after grants, but it's not something that I think is going to have a major impact on our community right off the bat, I don't think.
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, it kind of goes back to something when Mike's reading this off in terms of what got cut from the capital projects budget, it does say that there's a big need that the city has right now, and maybe we should look at our budget and see if we can make our capital projects budget a little bit higher.
So are you just saying just improve our capital budget so that we can have that in that line item in
Well, I was
there?
originally thinking of offering to swap, but I think that we should maybe just instead let the city come to us with something and say this is what they'd like us to spend the money on. Are we game for it? That fits within our guidelines, and maybe for us knowing what's happening on the city's budget side.
Yeah, as long as we have discernment over those issues and where they're going, I don't see a problem with that, but I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but we probably should help where we can. I mean, we just don't want to keep it in the bank forever.
Right. So having said that, let me go to item number 7, which is consideration and possible action to approve the proposed MEDC FY22-23 budget. So there's 2 items then that we would look at changing. So one of them, to be clear, if you remember, we had the 2 workshops, and we were in agreement with finalizing everything except the possibility of having a half-time person again, trying for that position, but going for it a different route, which is that half-time person is combined with another half-time person, and they work in the Park and Rec department, which is actually under Public Works. So Public Works is willing to fund half of a person to work, to be the other half of our person. And so that they'll basically do what we had before when Amy was just the events coordinator. So that person will only be doing city events, like the water party, like Halloween, like Christmas, and things like that. So Dave has on page 79, what we didn't have when we discussed it at our last workshop was numbers. So what we have now is numbers to talk about. So the total MEDC funding request for that would be $35,000.
And what line item was he thinking to add it to?
So we would need to move it to, I think we should make a new line item in administration,
Well, now tell me again,
or,
administrative transfers to general fund, 55,000.
so that's
What is
Dave.
that?
That's Dave in the office, and Nikki's supposed to be working on, like, telling us what we're getting for our money.
Right, and we
'Cause
still haven't
I was gonna
gotten
say, because
it.
that's always been like a who knows for us.
Because that's a person there, according to Dave, 52,000 a year is the amount.
I think the 55 is already in there, though. I think
Yeah,
that was there.
I know, but I'm just saying,
What happened to Amy?
why is it 55,000?
It's been that way for the last several years, and, that's the problem without an administrative services agreement, like, we just put something in
they-
there and it's.
Do they use it all? I mean,
No, because
there's
it
no
gets transferred.
35,000?
It gets divided by 12
In
months,
there.
and 1/12 of it gets transferred out every month, and there's no real accounting for whether we get lots or get little out of it.
Okay. So you're thinking add a line item
Well, I think we could.
that says Parks and Recreation,
I was gonna say, I think.
salary, or
Yeah.
Parks and Recreation Fund, I don't know.
I would put Park and Rec salary. to
Then
make
that
it
way,
clear.
we would know next year
Exactly,
that 35 was enough or 35 wasn't enough.
right. It would
And
not
that it
be
went
lumped in.
to that person,
Right. I
not
agree.
this 55,000 that nobody really can
Exactly.
answer the
Right.
But we
question.
know that 35 is almost
Yes.
to the dollar half of
Right.
salary and benefits for
Right.
that person, verifying with Anthony.
Mike is kind of a to the dollar sort of person.
Mhm.
He doesn't like these,
Will the MEDC have any input as to who this person is or what their qualifications are or anything like that? Or are we just gonna, it's a city person and,
it's a city, we don't have the training, we don't have the legal liability coverage to manage an employee, so.
The
we can-
city has asked for a job description, is that what it was called?
Yes.
And
And we will be working on that. I've got.
we've already
They're
got one of
supposed-
those, right?
But it's more of a event person. This person is not doing that many events that this person was
This is more
doing.
Parks and Rec.
Yes.
This is going to
This
be
is going to be a
doing,
person coming, it's going to be
Yeah.
coming up with a new ideas. I keep using the same examples, but it's because it's the couple that I've thought of. For instance, in the summertime, we have a community building that sits downtown that could be used in the summertime to hold art classes for kids, little mini camps like Conrad does. Evening classes during the week for, adult classes for painting, or
It's probably
stuff like that.
a better description of what that position should be anyway, right? Somebody who's in, like Parks and Rec, but they're also
Right.
doing events as well. So it's just,
Yes.
what you're saying is they're folding it all into one.
Right.
More of a widespread, mutually MEDC slash.
But less
But
widespread,
less.
because I think one of the things that we failed last time is we got this huge job description that ended up being totally ridiculous, in which then people were just picking and choosing what they were actually doing or.
I got you. So
like-
this will be a little bit more of a defined responsibilities.
Right.
And structured, yeah,
And
guardrails.
achievable, and I think also with, very similar, more similar to what other cities are doing, so you know that it actually works in other cities as well,
Okay.
so it's benchmarkable against
Right.
That's
what other
it.
people have.
And this person is under Mike, and they're not under Dave, and they're not under Nikki, and they're not under Byron, or
Okay,
whoever. This person is under Mike.
okay.
So
Parks
are we
and
asking Mike
Recreation.
to, okay, we need this person to do that, help us with this event, go knock on doors, make sure the shop owners are happy, we're gonna have this?
No, so this person will not be,
No.
we are getting out of the private event business with
Okay.
this position. This will be city events. The private events right now are being, first point of contact is code enforcement officer. We're gonna, just in general, we're trying to get to a more, here's your checklist. You bring us back a completed application and checklist rather than trying to get into actual planning these private events as we were doing before.
I was gonna say, it got to the point where, people were so busy doing things for other people that they weren't
That they
doing for
weren't
themselves,
doing.
that we weren't getting
Our-
time to do our own things.
Well, who's
Right.
handling setting up barricades and alerting the business owners and all that? Is that still under your purview? For events like parades and festivals?
Yeah, so we always handle barricades. Well, like Charlie's festival, he handles all that. He does the fencing, he does
Right.
all of that because it's a private event. But all of your Christmas parade and light up the park, Public Works handles all that.
Okay, so things aren't really too far out of reach for you already anyway, right?
Not really.
doing
This
already.
is I think this will be a great improvement on the quality of life aspect. Well, I think it's something that we can, right now, we've been kind of following suit on, Becky, I know Becky has done a lot over the last 5 years on parade and all that. I'm hoping this person can kind of help out with that, but also add these new features that, the thing we keep hearing around here is, we've all heard it, there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do. Hopefully this will help out in a small way.
Okay,
And
well, we'd already committed to some money for this anyway, and less than this actually, so this isn't really a stretch, it's just a matter of putting it in the budget, right? Okay, so what's the motion then? Should we?
Well, so I think we don't need a motion just yet. So I think right now we have consulting professional services at 20 is our proposed budget, and that was me and Amy kind of. I mean, we could move that to 0, and then we would need another 15, and really the balancing line item has been downtown and corridor development improvements. So we would need to move
Could take
15 from that.
15 from that one.
So that'd be 32249, and then that would be 0. So then parks at 35. Is it exactly 35? Yeah. But I like Carol's idea where, you're very explicit as to what, what that is. And if we need to do a budget amendment, then we do a budget amendment, not have it be wishy-washy so we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So then the other question is whether we want to increase the city capital projects line item by taking any money out of the downtown and corridor development improvements line item.
I don't see why not.
And if yes, how much?
How much do we need, Carol? What'd you think?
You had 160 in there, looks like.
What is the line item, streets and sidewalks for 40,000? What is that?
So this year we used that for Clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
In years past, we haven't used it.
Right.
Years before, we've used it for
So we
streets.
added that to the 160 and it became the 200 that,
We could do that.
that the city got. Is that what happened?
Yes. Oh, yes, sorry. That should, he did that transfer, I think,
Yes.
just now.
Yeah,
Or
he
very
just did
recently.
it, but that's what
That's what we spent this
MEDC
year.
said, was the 160 and the 40, and gave it to the,
Yes, for the
Cover
cover
Street.
project.
okay. So if the city brings a project that they feel deemed to need EDC's money, then we've got the 160 and we have the 40, because it's not spoken for yet. Is that right?
As long as it's a street and sidewalk project. If it was like Mike's, one of his sewer repairs, then streets and sidewalks would need to do a budget amendment to use it for that.
Okay,
And I'm not sure whether it would be downtown, and if it wasn't downtown or corridor, then we need a budget amendment to move it from that too.
okay.
I mean, I feel like since we're adding $150,000 to the downtown and corridor development improvements on the kind of current penciled in number, like I would be comfortable putting that down by another 40, so we were at $280,000 there, and then increasing my city capital projects to 200,000 for the year.
And
Because again,
then,
we'll have full control over that, it would be within the EDC's mandate, but it would be more flexible in terms of how we spent it and where we spent it. It might be downtown, it might not be,
Right.
it might be above ground, it might be below ground.
It sounds good.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So will y'all make those adjustments and then we'll go back and vote on it, or do we?
So,
Because we need to get this budget moving along.
so
right?
what happens after we are satisfied with where we are, then it goes to city council for approval. At our next meeting, we need to have a, oh shoot, that didn't end up on there. We need to have a public, call for public meetings. So we need to have public hearings in order to approve our budget. But beforehand, city council needs to approve it. So if the city does not approve our budget, then at our next meeting, we will need to take on board their comments, get it back from them, or either exactly make their changes or make our own changes and then go back and get a secondary, another approval, and then still have our public hearings.
Okay.
so line item number 7, consideration and possible action to approve the proposed MEDC budget.
It's got to be tabled right now, right?
We're not going to do that tonight because
So I think what
we're
I was gonna
waiting
say, I
on the
think we'll-
changes.
Right, what we'll do is we'll approve these changes, these suggested changes, and send it to city council for formal approval and
The public hearings.
Yes.
public hearings.
We hold the public hearings, the city
Well, they will hold their own public hearings.
right.
Which will include our budget.
which includes your budget.
But we have our own public hearings,
Okay.
which should have been on this agenda, and I don't know where it fell off.
Okay,
But isn't the whole budget passed by September 19th, which is that Monday night that we would be meeting?
We will, hopefully, yes. So ideally, this goes to city council for your next meeting,
29th of August, I mean, the
next Monday.
20, yeah.
And then if you guys say yes, then we're totally on a good horizon. If you say no, we can have an emergency meeting and then approve the changes, and then city council can then approve it at the first meeting of September. And then if they do that, then we just do our,
But would we have to do it before the 19th?
only if city council disapproves it at the meeting on Monday.
Okay.
But again, so if we have to have an interim meeting, if city council disapproves it, then we can do that
Okay.
between your 4th meeting and your 1st meeting in September.
It should be fine.
And I think, this generally hopefully meets the guidelines of what the city's looking for and gives a lot of flexibility, especially, you know, extra money in the city capital projects budget line item and,
Yeah. That'll be fine.
you know, the half salary is something that you guys have already talked about in your budget workshop, and everything else I think is pretty standard. It's exactly the same as it was last year, so, I mean, not exactly, but fairly close. Okay, so just to confirm, so we're taking the consulting professional services line item down to 0, which was $20,000. And we're moving $15,000 from our downtown and corridor development improvement, all of which to put $35,000 in a parks and recreation line item down in category 5.
Yes.
And then we're increasing our city capital projects budget to $200,000, and then taking that money out of downtown and corridor development improvements, which I believe brings us to $280,249 in that line item.
Yes.
Has anyone else confirmed my math?
Yeah,
You think it's good?
yes,
Okay.
it's good.
You know, without the engineer here, you know, a little bit flying blind on math. Okay. So I'm not sure if we're legally allowed to call for a public hearing because it's not on our agenda.
I would say no, because it's not on the agenda.
So we might have to have another meeting anyway. So if you two are at the city council meeting on Monday, and I come to the city council meeting on Monday, and if you
It's
want
not it's
sorry, Tuesday.
just the budget meeting
It's just
on
a budget.
Monday.
But Tuesday, right? You have a city
Tuesday
council
is
meeting.
city council.
Tuesday we have city
meeting.
council.
And then
Yes.
one more person is willing to come in, we can have the MEDC meeting before, and then can't have a quorum and call for the public hearing, and then close it, and then leave.
Yep.
And then you guys can have your meeting.
That'll work.
Okay.
Okay.
So this time what we do is consideration of possible action to finalize what we're really doing is finalizing our proposed budget and sending it to city council for approval.
Okay.
So if anyone would like to move on that. I'll do it then. I move that we finalize we send this finalized proposed MEDC FY 22-23 budget and send it to city council for approval.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the finalized proposed budget for MEDC FY 22-23 and send it to city council for approval. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority votes. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor of approving the proposed finalized MEDC 2022-23 budget say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will approve the proposed finalized MEDC 2022-2023 budget and send it to City Council for their approval. Item number 8, consideration and possible action on approval of Bitly expense to create unique website addresses. This is something that I have been fiddling around with a little bit. So I don't know if anyone has used Bitly before. Basically, sometimes when you have website addresses, they get really long, and they're really cumbersome if you're trying to share them with somebody who's then typing it in. So, like, I use them for city events, like the snow party and things like that. But it says bit.ly and then like Montgomery snow party. Dave put one in there. So I've been using the free version, but the problem is that you can't change the source of, or like where you're going with that. So you have to think of something new. So for this year, I think I had to put bit.ly Montgomery Snow Party 2022 or 2023. Yeah.
It's the same thing with tiny URL,
Okay.
right?
So I have not used it, but probably.
Yeah,
So for $96 a year, you can actually change all of where you're sending your thing, which allows you to use the same signage, which probably saves you more than $96.
It's a no-brainer.
Okay.
Just do it.
And I was gonna say-
I mean, yeah, I'll give it to you. No, I'm kidding. Dan says he's up for it. Anyway, all right, so I move that we accept and approve the subscription for $96 per year to approve Bentley's annual subscription. And it's been seconded, and now we're done.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Bentley expenses. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? So this says that we can do it in marketing and tourism or administration.
Marketing, huh?
I think probably in marketing and tourism.
Yeah.
I'd probably put it under website if that's,
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, it is related to website issues.
Absolutely.
All right. All those in favor of approving the Bentley expense, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, except for Byron has stepped out, but we still have a quorum, so it still carries. All right, item number 9, consideration of possible action on purchasing equipment for Montgomery movie night events. Mike?
All right, I won't read the whole paragraph. But basically, all our movie night equipment has been borrowed over the years. Things started out as just kind of, I think Becky bought some equipment, and we borrowed some equipment from Bobby Skinner from the Snow Cone Stand and
The Cub Scouts.
the Cub Scouts, and it's worked well, but we ran into a situation where some of the equipment was, we thought, locked in storage and we couldn't get to it with the owner in Mexico, and then we found, and this was all the day before, and we found out that the blower was actually broken and we had to repair it. Long story short, we have bought all our own equipment now. We're going to start having a public works employee work the movie night event, since it is our equipment, to make sure that everything is taken care of. Bobby's it's told me that, see, like every time he got his equipment back, something was broken, a cord was broken, something, so. But this is, we've already bought all of this, I'm just hoping to get reimbursed for it. It is bigger screen, should be a little bit better movie night. It's the same brand of projector that's worked well, but it is the higher resolution. We're taking the screen from a 12-inch diagonal screen to a 12-foot diagonal screen to a 16-foot diagonal screen. So it should be a little bit
So do we make
better
a,
picture, better sound.
make a motion to approve Mike's backyard parties?
There you go.
Does it, what line item is it coming out of?
I would do
Rebecca?
events equipment.
Oh, events and equipment?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
specifically what it's for.
Okay, good, okay.
I'll make a motion that we
Okay.
reimburse, is it city parks?
It's out of Public Works.
Oh,
It's miscellaneous.
reimburse public works for the movie night equipment?
And I second his motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we reimburse Public Works for the movie night equipment. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion? All those in favor of reimbursing Public Works for the movie night equipment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will reimburse Public Works for the movie night equipment in the amount of, what's the total like?
2,200.
2,200?
2287.
Yeah.
I can't believe you got it all done for that price.
Yeah, that's a pretty good
Yeah.
bargain.
Well
Sure
done.
is.
All right, so we did number 10, the city administrator, engineer's report and administrator's update. I think we're kind of going to skip those if that's all right. I do have an update. We have been hassling TxDOT about the brick pavers, and it sounds like that actually is happening without first cementing everything in and then tearing it out. So I don't have an ETA on the implementation of those pavers, but it'd be really nice to get everything done so we can get all those barricades down.
Oh, yeah.
So what is the delay on the barricades?
So I've heard two different things. One, that they run out of cement or cement, I don't know, my Yankee is showing. And then the other, that they run into some contract issues where supposedly TxDOT put out drawings that didn't show some certain type of expansion joints, but they're the expansion joints they always use, but the contractor said they did without them. So they're at a standstill while they work things out. Meanwhile, you know,
We
I think they
run
said Jimmy Williams, the fire chief, said that, you know, accidents are up 40% or something ridiculous
Oh,
like
sure.
that. So, you know, we're all suffering while they do a safety improvement project.
Over an expansion joint.
So do they have any ETA on it now? It was supposed to be done by when? Well, it was like a few month project.
I don't know, but the bricks, so I think that they're included, we were able to get ones that were included in TxDOT, what TxDOT's willing to pay for, so I don't think we have to pay anything for it. And they're going to go all the way up to the top of the hill, so that as you come over the hill and you see the US flag at the car wash and the Banks flag, and the Montgomery Vista, the quality of the pavers will change. You'll see the high quality vista below you and know that you've reached
Awesome.
Montgomery.
Good
Awesome.
deal.
Good job, thank you.
So that's excellent. Any questions on that? That's the only one I have. And I don't believe we have anything for executive session. Any board inquiry items, things you'd like to talk about next week, questions that Mike can answer, or?
I just want to give the same invitation I have to the city council that there is a 3-day workshop training that's based around Texas Main Street program. And Becky had presented this way back, and I looked at it, and then I called Becky a while back, and, you know, again, I get all the comments about, like I said before, you know, in downtown, what's there to do and those types of things. You have to be proactive. And this Texas Main Street program goes perfectly with tours. It does, and it is long-term. But basically, in a nutshell, when you go on the line and you look in the Texas cities especially that are best tourism, you know, the Goliads and stuff, and granted, a lot of them have a rosy situation. It's a town square, everything lines up, you got a court, you know, we got our issues. But in general, it just about incentivizing building up with innovation and repurposing buildings with innovation, and then, you know, making that possible. But that training, I think, would be essential, that we could get at least one off the MEDC, at least one off the city council, and I've talked to Bill Simpson to do the same for planning and zoning. I can't go personally, but I'd like for y'all to write these days down. It's November 1 through 4 in San Marcos. And if anybody can go, and obviously Becky would be a wonderful one to go, but if
We have
anybody
to
else wants to
become
go.
We have to become a member of it first.
Do you?
And so I talked to Dave about it, and he was going to check into it. I don't think it's more than $200, but it's the Texas Downtown Association.
Okay.
The one that's called Texas City is one that you have to have a employee that is strictly for your downtown area. And once Conroe just became one of the tourist cities or something, and they've worked hard to get it. And it's
Okay.
real hard. I talked to Shannon about that because I remembered back when she was with city and EDC that she became a member of one of these, and it was the Texas Downtown. She highly recommends it.
Good deal. Well, that's what I wanted to let you know there. And then I've been talking quite a bit with Terry Weaver, keeping in touch with the movie. I kept bugging him about when am I going to get to see number 4. And but so they have gone into filming, but he wrote me something that I could share. To date, as of August the 8th is when this was written, Breaking Strongholds has been streaming for 3 months and 9 days so far. He said, so far on YouTube alone, we have had over 75,000 views, and many viewers have reached out and provided testimonies of the good it is doing. A guy named Eric writes, having lost a sweet 16-year-old granddaughter, I can only say, wow. If only Safe Talk had been in the schools. If only anyone had known what to look for. If only, etc. So this series will save countless broken lives and bring hope where it's been lost. And there's several testimonies here. I won't read them all. But also good news, the show has been picked up by PureFlix.
Awesome.
And so that's going to be thousands of others. And we are working on agreements with other streaming platforms. We expect the show to continue to grow its viewership and impact. Huge thanks goes to the city of Montgomery and of course us at MEDC for continued support. So
Thank you
continue
for
to
the
pray for that effectiveness. And again, it is out through the bigger churches, especially getting to the youth and getting kids talking, and it's been a good partnership with the school through the superintendent, well received there, to get guest speakers and people aware of these types of things. So
Awesome,
Good
thank
deal.
you, that's great news. Good stuff.
Excellent. All right, anyone else? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to
Y'all fight over
adjourn.
it.
I'll second.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously, and we are adjourned at 7:40. Thank you very much, everyone.
I was thinking 8, so I feel like it's a win. Quick question for you before you head out, because I only get to see you once every 3 months. I'm putting the Hockley's building, it's almost renovated, just finished, and put a new roof.